Hi and welcome to Know Your Kanoon. This is Amber from Amber Rana Ventures, and welcome to another edition, rather our first YouTube live with our first guest, where we announce our launch an association with a very dear friend and I would say a colleague as well. So I would like to introduce Mr. Josh Green, who is the founder of the platform called BorderPass, wherein he assists Canadian probable Indian students looking out for Canadian immigration and looking to move to Canada to pursue their higher studies. And we're going to discuss all about what this platform is all about, how he can help us as an immigration lawyer, what is our association with Border Pass, and what kind of services we are bringing to you. So, Josh, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Amber. Hello from Toronto, Canada.
Yes. And Josh, can you please introduce yourself? Because I think I couldn't do much of justice to your accomplishments. So could you just please introduce yourself as well?
Sure. So I'm a Canadian immigration lawyer here, as I mentioned, based in Toronto, Canada. I had formal kind of immigration training at a firm called Green and Spiegel. I had left the firm about a year ago to start this new venture, BorderPass, which we'll get into. And what we're trying to do is assist students coming to Canada for everything from the actual immigration process to helping them settle in Canada and just supporting them throughout their entire stay while they're in Canada.
Perfect. So, Josh, I'll just basically talk to. I've just spoken to so many listeners of mine, right? Earlier during the episodes when we did an episode together, an audio we did, and they wanted to understand about the alliance, what is it all about, how are we running the show. So for everybody out there, my law firm has collaborated with Josh. We're trying to help him establish his brand in India. We are one of their partners in India, wherein we are trying to get Border Pass reach out to you so that it simplifies and deletes the agents out of picture. Now, to start with what Border Pass is all about, uh, Border Pass is just a platform where everything gets simplified. If you're a student who's looking to do an undergraduate program or looking for a postgraduate program, looking to move overseas, we delete the agent interface, which comes into picture when you reach out to them for assisting with your visa, documentation, and handholding. So, Josh, as a lawyer, the first thing I want to understand is, as a lawyer, when we start looking at this, you have to tell me how, and how does it benefit somebody, because India is a market where there are a lot of consultants, there are a lot of consultants, there are a lot of agents, so self-proclaimed immigration champions who are sitting here, yet you're not licensed, right? So anybody who comes to the platform, first they need to understand the importance of immigration and having an immigration lawyer. So could you just please elaborate on that, because since your whole family has been doing it for generations, you yourself are a lawyer. So
yeah, so immigration is a very high stakes transaction. It's literally your livelihood going from one country to another. And it's really important that when you're going through this process, you do it properly and you get the proper help and assistance you need. As you're mentioning, the current market is a little crowded in the way that it operates. Doesn't benefit the actual student or person coming to Canada at times. And there are a lot of people who claim they know how to do the immigration process, but they do not, or people try and do it on their own, and it's very complicated. And there are a lot of small details that have to be catered to. Or if they try and go to a lawyer, they can be very expensive, and it's quite intimidating as well. So what we're trying to do at BorderPass is kind of combine the best of all these things, where you get the simplified, easier process, also that lawyer quality within your visa application, but offering it at a price point where you're not breaking the bank to have that high quality visa and cross-border journey. And further, we also think that one of the big problems with the industry is that there are a lot of different players, and it can we believe all of it should be done together. So it's currently transactional. What I mean by that is, if you go to an agent, you go to a lawyer, if you get your visa approved, they say, okay, great, here's your visa, good luck in Canada. And making that transition to Canada is it's very difficult. There are a lot of uncertainties and unknowns moving to a new country. I actually was an international student myself. I studied abroad in Australia for multiple years, and going as a Canadian to Australia, the culture change isn't too huge, but even so, I still felt a lot of those uncertainties and difficulties of settling in a new place, and wanting support throughout, not just getting the visa, not just at the beginning of my time there, but to all the way, throughout my entire stay, when, I wanted to see my options of how do I stay? Am I adhering to all of the immigration conditions and requirements? Can I go travel and come back? I just had a lot of questions that I wish, were answered, and I was able to have access to the proper information at the time. So that's kind of a long-winded way of saying the current industry could use a lot of improvement where, the end user can really benefit from what we're trying to do at BorderPass. Amber, you're on mute.
There you go.
There you go.
Yep. So, as I would say, as Josh rightly put out, I'll tell you an interesting fact. Since I'm working with Green and Spiegel as well, which is, again, Josh has been a part of it, and now I'm also interacting with a lot of legal people from around the world. And what, one thing I've realized is that Indians don't realize the importance of lawyer in immigration, because immigration is not a subject where it's a matter of money, where you just pay less and hire somebody who does not understand that country's law. Coming to that, first of all, agents are not qualified to practice another country's law until unless they are registered in that country and have done that 1-year course and have been approved by the respective immigration bodies to be qualified even to start. Number one. So when it comes to agents, what people have in mind in India is somebody who will just do the paperwork, connect you there, and you're sorted because there's a stream at a cheap, affordable pricing. But what you don't understand in terms of technicality is that immigration law is a subject, and it is a subject which needs to be studied. There are nuances to it. There are provisions in it. I mean, what if your application just got stuck as a student visa at a point where you need to provide some clarification on your documentation? I mean, somebody like Josh and BorderPass is there to help you. What they'll do then and there is file all those replies for you, find out what the problem is, help you with those queries, legally speaking, and act on your behalf as a respondent, as a appellant, as whatever capacity it may be at that point of time which you are in. So that is the importance of having a lawyer in a subject like immigration. All right. Cost is something different. And as we speak, when I started talking to Josh and we were talking about this initiative of BorderPass in Canada, the one thing I had in my mind was, what is so new about it? I mean, every other agent you can contact with all the fancy names in India, and they will just put you across by charging you some few million rupees, and you're in Canada. But that's not the point. The point is, first of all, to remove that interface. Number two, also to help you access all these facilities that a lawyer provides at a one-stop. So, Josh, let's talk about, BorderPass from a platform perspective. It's an inception you had being a lawyer, because lawyer and tech is a big field in India as well. So I'm going to make it a little interesting for all the listeners also, that lawyers are getting into tech. And now you had a legacy business running behind you, which is into immigration. So how did it occur to you that, immigration should be clubbed with tech to a situation where just one platform is there, you can just log in and get your one-stop solutions?
Yes. So the process here in Canada to become a lawyer is obviously you have to go to law school, and then you have to write your bar examinations and also article or do kind of practical training for
Right.
10 months. And then that's when you become a lawyer. So while I was doing my articling at the law firm, a lot of the processes are very, they're repetitive. It's a lot of correspondence going back and forth. And kind of be sitting at my desk thinking a lot of this stuff has to be automated. And while I was at the firm, there's a visa program called the Startup Visa Program, and I got quite involved in that at the firm. And through my work there, I'd met Sally Dobb, who's now my co-founder. And the first time I met her, she actually mentioned, "Oh, I want to automate all these processes." And I also was thinking the same thing. And I'm like, "Oh my God, I need to talk to this person and tell her about my ideas." And we sat there for like 10 minutes. We had very similar thoughts even before speaking, and we were like, "All right, let's do it." And on top of my work at the firms I mentioned, I had studied abroad, and I had experienced a lot of those, I guess I'll call them hardships that a lot of international students go through. And taking into account that I was a Canadian going to Australia, which is much easier than, for example, the Indian student coming to Canada. I can only imagine what it would be like for someone going to, such a different culture and different country than what they're used to. And as I was mentioning before, the coming to a new country, it's not just a transaction. It's not just getting your visa and getting on a plane. There's so much more to it. It's
Right.
even leading up to the visa application, you're very uncertain and nervous. You don't really know what's going on. You don't know who to trust. Packing your bags, going to the airport, not knowing what to say to people at the airport, just having anxiety throughout this process, landing, not knowing how to get to where you need to be, your apartment or wherever you're staying. And I remember when I landed in Australia, my first day there, I spent all day trying to get all these essential things I needed, like a phone. I couldn't name, an Australian telecommunication company. I needed to get a bank account. I couldn't name an Australian bank. And then I had to get, a bunch of stuff from my apartment. I had no idea where I was going. I obviously didn't have a phone at the time because I needed to get one. So it was even difficult to search these things. And just the overbearing of, oh my God, I'm in a new place by myself. What am I doing? So that experience combined with my time at the firm is kind of how this came about. And now we've been doing it for about a year now. And we're looking to offer these services and help out people coming to study in Canada.
Absolutely, Josh. And these are some of the challenges that everybody faces in immigration. When you're doing all of this, you need to have platforms. I see. I'll also add this for students in India, and mostly if listeners are students. What I want to highlight is that when you, there are a lot of groups on WhatsApp, on Telegram, where people just post stuff about their experiences now, because it's more of World Wide Web situation where you can just log in, and maybe I'm not one of those guys who just wants to join a group and understand what's happening, and people just read up and follow things, and actually it lands you in trouble because it might have worked for somebody, but it's not going to work for you. And your situation might be totally different, whether it's your documentation, whether it's your permits, whether how you're there or you're not. And the biggest challenge in India which we face right now is students who did get a visa, who did move there, but they had no clue whether they could come back or or re-enter the country at what point of time. I understand policies change, but if someone legally would have advised them, let's say, of course universities do give out a disclosure, but if you have someone like a lawyer, like in BorderPass, you would have Josh and his team at your disposal who can just tell you that, hey, this is a time period we would recommend you don't take risks about flying to XYZ and coming back from XYZ. You would never get stuck behind because there is a legal professional helping you out, instead of taking it as a job of the agent to just inform you that you can just get in. And on account of that, you have financial loss, you have loss of even a better education, I would say, because some people who enroll for full-time courses plan to fly back to India to spend time with families now can't fly back. And it's not, and to talk about the global situation, so is the US, and so is Canada. So when it comes to immigration, these policies and these touch points can only be elaborated by a lawyer. So Josh, I was very intrigued by BorderPass when we first had our website test, right? We went through, me and Asteen, we went through the whole process, and we just loved the process altogether. Maybe if you could go give a gist of how simple it is to use the platform, because we found it to be very easy.
Yeah, and before I go into that, just to add on what you're saying, so immigration regulations are constantly changing.
Absolutely.
So if you search something online, what may have worked a year ago or even a month ago, especially during COVID, where all the regulations are constantly being updated and changed, may not apply to you. Everyone's situation is unique. Even whatever government is empowering, I'm talking about the US, the Trump administration had very different immigration laws than the Biden administration. So staying on top of all these things is really important, which is a good segue into how our platform works. And I'll talk about just kind of the user experience and the student process of being on our platform. So there are kind of three different parts of the platform. There's the building your visa application submission. there's that pre-arrival stage, and then there's your time in Canada. So what you would do is you would log onto our platform, you would click through our our information gathering process, where we're asking questions about your circumstance. And what the technology is doing is not just assessing eligibility, which is a lot of what a lot of the information online will tell you, but it won't tell you your chances of being approved and your risk factors. So that's what our software is doing, and the algorithms are taking into account different factors that would make your case more risky or make you more likely to be approved. So once we do that assessment of you and our algorithm says, okay, you're great, then the next part is we will make the application unique to your specific situation, whether it means your parent is supporting you, whether you've already paid for accommodation, just different things that would make your situation unique, your family members, what they do, all that kind of stuff. So that once you go through that process, and we built it out so that it's all in very simple terms, because I know searching the internet and the government websites, it's quite difficult to understand. It's hard to navigate, and they use all legal terms because they're supposed to use the legal terms, and it can be quite difficult, even for the most intelligent of people, to understand what they're saying, what the regulations or rules are. So once you get through that process, our platform will build out your personalized document list that's specific to your situation, and
Right.
you'll be able to upload all the documents that you need. And it's more specific than just, for example, proof of finance, because obviously a huge part of coming to Canada as a student is proving that you can support yourself and pay for all your expenses. But what exactly does that mean? If your documents are in English, you need certified translations and things like that. So each different document that you're asked to upload has simple instructions on what exactly it has to be, how it has to be formatted, how it has to be uploaded. And then, as I was mentioning about eligibility versus chances of actually being approved, a lot of the government resources and things online are catered more toward meeting the minimum, as opposed to actually building a strong application, and avoiding those frustrating refusals of, oh, if only someone guided me properly, I would have been approved. So the document list that you'll get is catered towards building a strong application, not just meeting those minimums. So while you're uploading those documents, you'll always have access to an immigration lawyer at all times. So you can use our online platform. If you ever confuse you, I don't know what this means, there's always immediate access to an immigration lawyer, where you can do anything from, oh, can I have a quick call with you, to, hey, I just have this quick question that you can sort out over chat. So you'll always have that guidance and support throughout. So once you go through the document uploading process, our team is drafting your support letters and study plans, as well as filling in all of your immigration forms. I know those are very tedious to go through. So we're doing all that for you. And then once the document uploads and application is complete, the entirety of your application is reviewed by a Canadian immigration lawyer in the same way it would be if you retained a law firm. And then once our team is satisfied with it, we would upload it to the government site as your representative on your behalf. In the event that a document isn't correct, or we want something more for your case, we would request it, but in the same kind of way that a lawyer would do if you retained a traditional firm. So once we upload your application to the government website, you have the same kind of legal representative again as you would a lawyer. So that's the first application building process. And we want to make our users feel like they're being supported, they feel confident, they feel secure, and the whole process is transparent, and they're always aware of what's going on, why we're asking certain questions. Why do you need to know what my parents do for a living? Why do you need to know this much about my finances? Just so you feel comfortable, and exactly why these things are being asked. It's not just for us to have this random information. So that's the application building process on our platform. So the next kind of stage is that pre-arrival stage. So there are a few different things you have to do once you submit your application. Our team will handle all the correspondence and communication with the government, so you don't have to deal with talking to the Canadian government. And there are different steps where they need to get your medical, your biometrics, different things like that that we'll walk you through. Also, especially during COVID, there are different regulations that you'll need to abide by, and we'll set you up to make sure you meet all of those. Make sure you have exactly what you need to enter Canada, what has to be on you, as opposed to, you can't have it in your bags. It has to be able to present to the immigration officer, all that kind of stuff. And this is also where what we call the BorderPass Club comes into play. So what we're doing is we're building out this this platform where you'll have all of those other essential services that you will need throughout this process. So those things could include, we can help you get book your flights to Canada. As I mentioned, preparing you for any COVID regulations, making sure you know exactly what to do at the border. We can help you get your bank accounts and sort those things before you arrive. Same thing with your phone plan, help you with accommodation, all those things that currently are just kind of being researched on Facebook groups, all that kind of stuff. We want to put it into one simple platform where it's coming from a trusted source. And also this whole time, you'll still have that access to an immigration lawyer should you have any questions or uncertainties throughout. And also, we're building out this kind of concierge service where if it's anything outside of immigration, for example, let's say you're coming in during the January term, and if you didn't know, Canada is quite cold. And if you've been living in India your whole life, you may not have ever experienced the Canadian winter. So you may be thinking, oh my God, I'm coming in the middle of winter. What do I need? Things that are as simple as that, but would be difficult to do on your own. So those are kind of the services we're building out. And those services that we offer will change based on where you are in the process, which kind of brings me to the arrival into Canada part of our platform. So we want to make sure that everyone on our platform is supported throughout their entire stay in Canada, whether that means you're coming for a one-year diploma or you plan on getting your Canadian citizenship. So as I was mentioning, we want to give access to these products and services that are essential to newcomers to Canada, but we also want to make sure that your immigration file is being managed and you are abiding by all of the immigration conditions and are on track to be eligible and meet the requirements for ongoing visas, whether you need to extend your study permit, whether you want to apply for a work permit, apply for permanent residency and express entry, all the way up to citizenship, because a lot of that process is about just making sure everything's in order, making sure you don't miss key dates, making sure that you abide by a regulation that you may not know. For example, are you allowed to work when you get here? If I'm living in Toronto, I want to go to New York for the weekend, am I allowed to do that? Am I allowed to go home for summer breaks? Different things like that, just so you aren't, breaking any immigration rules or regulations, so that you're on track to meet, all those visa requirements to be eligible for those ongoing visas, because obviously a big objective for a lot of people coming to Canada is eventually to get their residency.
Right.
So we just want to ensure that all our users are able to do that. And for younger students who are just coming for their undergraduate or just finished high school, we also want to offer that kind of security and feeling comfort for their parents that they're being taken care of. A lot of coming to a new country and a lot of that feeling of support has to do far more with immigration. What happens if my child needs to go to a doctor, go to a dentist, all these kind of things are what we're going to offer on our platform. And again, based on where you are in your process, those services and products will be different, because obviously somebody who just came to Canada needs very different things than somebody who's been here for a year. So that's our user experience from kind of start to finish. And there's a theme of this isn't a transaction. It's not just here's your visa, good luck in Canada, go figure out what else to do. Your cross-border journey is multiple years for a lot of people. There are lots of different parts, different phases, and you should be supported throughout that entire stage. So that's what we're trying to do at BorderPass, and that's what we're trying to change within the industry.
No, Josh, perfect for that information. But I also want to ask from you, how long does it take generally for this process? Because that's what the students are interested in, right? Let's say you've got an admission into a country, right? You've got admission into Canada. You've got, in a university. Let's say you started studying with UBC. Now, the permit process. Let's say if somebody comes to BorderPass and you start with the process, generally how long? Because the pandemic is setting in, right? And it's not going anywhere soon, I believe, even in the next year. But for someone like this in situation, is it taking way too long? And what is the ballpark figure for this whole process, and how much time is it taking for students to go through?
So obviously the pandemic has really affected processing times, but the Canadian government is still processing visas. If you've been accepted into Canadian school, you can still come to Canada with a study permit. You're still allowed to enter. In terms of timing, as an Indian resident, there's something called the Student Direct Stream program, where it's faster processing. Normally, it takes just 20 business days once you submit your application. But obviously, under COVID, these things have been extended. The government did announce that if you had, and this just so you can get an idea of what a regular study permit would take. If you had completed your application by May 15th, you'd get a decision by no later than August 6th. And the processes during COVID and kind of moving forward will, hopefully continue to improve and get faster. But that's also one of the benefits of using our platform is we want to make the process beforehand, creating that application faster so that you're here in time for the start of your program. So the processing times are slower than normal, but as things start to open up here in Canada, as things hopefully begin to open up elsewhere in the world, they'll continue to get faster back to the traditional processing time. But that is just a way of saying the best time to apply is right away. But again, Canada's still processing study permits, and you're allowed to enter Canada if you have one.
Oh wow, wonderful. That's informative. So what you're saying is still, if you have a study permit, you can enter Canada despite being a ban in place, because the recent law says that you cannot fly until I think 22nd of June, and I think that is when I was looking to fly in, but I'm stuck as well.
So it's only a ban on direct flights. So if you actually fly not direct, you would be able to enter.
All right. So, and is there an info on what all countries would allow? Because I think most of Europe is shut for Indians, right? And we do fly through Europe. So it'll be like
that. I don't know.
There you don't know. All right, perfect. Now, also, I want to understand from you. Let's say you spoke about the whole process. You spoke about hand holding. What I want to know from you is, the turnaround time for a lawyer to reach out. Let's say if I've logged into the platform, the biggest concern is, and especially in India, we're a service, oriented industry where we look at how we can, have somebody just reach out to us and help us out instantly when we're doing this. So let's say a lawyer from Canada. Of course, as part of your whole setup, we are there to assist just in case there's a stop loss gap. But I would say somebody from BorderPass, who just reaches out to you guys. What time does it take, overall, for a lawyer from Canada to get in touch with the registered student?
So on our platform, we're quite responsive, and we normally reply right away. The latest is just because of time difference. Based in Canada, you may get a response the next morning, but for the most part, you will be answered right away. Traditionally, if you were to reach out to IRCC, the Canadian government, that can take multiple days. If you go to traditional law firms, you would have to sometimes pay for consult fees, and it's much harder to get in touch with them. So, you know, another benefit of our platform is that you get these answers right away, and a lot of the reasons people reach out are for these just kind of quick, oh, what happens if this happens? So that's another advantage that we want to offer to make the process better, instead of, you know, waiting for a reply from a lawyer or trying to find the answer on the deep dark internet can be difficult. So yeah, we reply pretty quickly. I mean, if you're watching, go out and see how long it takes. But yeah, using technology is is an advantage in the legal space, and this is one of the advantages.
No, of course. And why I spoke about that was generally what happens is if the reach out time is better. I mean, if I'm looking for services, it makes it easier for me to access. Now, Josh, I'll come to the second leg of immigration, and that is talking about the current scenario in Canada, right? Uh, Part-time jobs for students. Let's talk about student immigration, because most of the potential individuals looking to enter your platform would be students who would look out at their future, right? Some of them are. So I have a basic knowledge and understanding of how it works. There is a Coop program. There is a part-time program. So could you explain a bit on that also, because students would know what they're getting into, right? So everybody says, well, I mean, what the agents sell you here is just get into any education program and you'll get a work permit and you can start working right away. But that's not true. And for that to happen, there is a altogether different ball game, right? You have to be in a course that matches your work time requirements, etc. Maybe if you could highlight that.
Yeah. So first, I'll speak about co-op programs,
Yep.
and
Yep.
then part-time work while you're a student. So as you're mentioning, there are a lot of programs in Canada where you can, study, and then a part of your course is work, meaning in order to complete your course, it's required that you do work. So that's what a co-op program is. In order to get a permit that allows you to do that, you have to apply while you apply for your study permit for this co-op program. And the way to do that is on your letter of acceptance, it has to explicitly say, this is a co-op program, work is required to complete this study program. And if you don't do that, then you aren't eligible to work. And if you were to work illegally, obviously there are ramifications there. And there are also instances where, for example, if you're going into a 4-year program and let's say the co-op doesn't start until your second or third year, you'd have to apply for it at that time. So that would be another visa process that you'd have to go through, that obviously if you just went through a one-time agent back in your home country, it would be difficult for them to assist you there. So that's a part of our platform, and that visa management and ongoing management. Or if you were to change your course, let's say first year you're studying whatever business, and then your second year you want to go into a co-op program, there's a process with that as well. So co-op programs are, a great opportunity to, get real life work experience while you study. But it is something that you have to have on your visa. You have to apply for it, and it's something that can obviously change over time should you change your program, or your program is a co-op later into your studies. In terms of part-time study, that has nothing to do with your course. Right. As a student, you're allowed to work 20 hours a week off campus, and you can't do more than 20 hours off campus. If you were to do that, then you are breaching your visa or your study permit, which is obviously a bad thing to do, and it can have ramifications in being asked to leave Canada, or obviously not being able to apply for other visas get approved there. On campus work is different. So that means if you're working at a cafe on campus, that you're allowed to do. But while you're a student, if you're working off campus, you get 20 hours. The reason being that the government wants to make sure that you're a bona fide, genuine student. So if you're working full time and then doing one course for a semester, then you're not really a student. You're more of a worker. So that's why you have to abide by that 20-hour regulation, so that you can meet all your conditions there. And
I
then
know.
I
I
can
know.
also,
I,
so go
I'll
ahead.
stop you there on this for a reason that, what happens is students have this misconception that on part time you can do more than 20 hours, and to make a buck, they get into driving Ubers and I don't know, doing whatnot crap, and then they get caught. And then it becomes an issue for an immigration. So please do not try antics that will get your immigration history into problem. If you're banned in one country due to some misconduct of your visa, you're going to have a tough time traveling to other nations as well. So it's
Yeah.
not that it's you ran out of Canada and you can enter US or can enter New Zealand or Australia or anywhere. It's going to create a bad name for you, and you're going to have tough times moving on. Josh, just wanted to
Yeah.
highlight that because that
The
happens a lot from India. Yeah.
Yeah, and the US, the UK, Canada, Australia, and I believe New Zealand do
The big five.
share they,
Yeah.
they do share information regarding not abiding by visa conditions.
Yeah.
So although it may not, if you were to be removed from Canada, that can impact a visa application in the US or in Australia. And one other thing is, if you are making money here in Canada, it's also important to get your social insurance number, which is another kind of government process, which is something that we would also assist you with, that you have to do once you land here in Canada, just for kind of tax purposes and things like that. So it's important to make sure that you abide by all the laws in Canada while you're here, and have no reasons to, be questioned or raise any troubles.
Perfect, Josh. So I have a lot of students who've written in, all right, as we speak on this, and I'll just start posting their queries. Maybe you could just take them one by one. So I have Mr. Vijay Nair who's written in that, hi, I'm a student of BTech, chemical engineering in my final year now. I'm thinking of going to Canada for my master's. How long can the immigration process take, as in years, months, or weeks, and what part of the process takes the most time?
So the first thing you'd have to do is be accepted into a master's program. You can't apply for a study permit until you have that letter of acceptance.
Right.
We're happy to begin that process under, if you have the understanding that we can't apply until you get accepted. So that's the first step. Second, the second you are accepted, is when we would advise to start the visa application. And it can take that process a couple weeks to get it complete and reviewed, but that also depends on how quickly you're able to provide our team with the relevant documentation and information. So that's more of a weeks thing. And then processing, as I mentioned before, as an Indian resident, you're eligible for that student direct stream process, which is normally 20 business days of processing. Obviously, during COVID, those things could change. So it's hard to say exactly. If you do the non-student direct stream programs just regularly, again, I kind of gave you that time frame of middle of May to August. So that's more of a month/multiple weeks thing. So the whole process of getting accepted, applying, and coming is usually a year.
All right. So I would say somewhere a ballpark figure of a year would work on this. Josh, also another question which I have is from another woman who said, how involved are Canadian universities in helping their students get visa to Canada, etc.? Should one always get legal help through this process? What do you recommend?
So the Canadian universities, if you go visit their websites, listeners can go do that on their own time. A lot of it is just copy and paste in government website stuff or links to government websites. And again, that kind of minimum requirement that I was talking about, and the difficulty navigating all those weird terms and stuff like that. So that's part of their online assistance. A lot of them do have, student services where they'll have people who will do their best to reply to your emails and answer your phone calls. They will not apply for you. And my experience and understanding with the Canadian institutions offering support is that it's more so informational, and that information is from government websites, just so they can make sure they abide by the rules and give the proper advice. A few of them have consultants on their teams, but generally, I would always recommend going the lawyer route, especially if coming to Canada is the dream of yours, and it's your main goal is kind of is doing whatever it takes to be approved. And the first thing I said was immigration is a high stakes transaction. It's your livelihood. So I would always recommend going the lawyer route. And then, I think that the Canadian universities currently don't offer an adequate amount of help, and it can take lots of time to hear back. So yeah, that's my way of saying it's always best to go with a professional, it's best to go with a lawyer. And I find that the university kind of websites are just more scraping information from government sites, just end up in that kind of loophole of going through the IRCC sites.
Absolutely, and I have another question, which is that can you highlight some of the legal documents that you need to have in place for immigration to Canada? Maybe just a gist of what documents basically you would need.
Yeah, so firstly, you'll need identification documents, including passports, if you have a national ID, something like that. You'll need, and very importantly, financial documents proving that you can pay for your stay, and also meet the requirements of that kind of showing your minimum funding and showing you'll be able to continue to make that income to support yourself. Those kind of documents can kind of vary, whether it's bank statements, income tax returns, pay stubs, investment portfolios, things like that. Your letter of acceptance, obviously. Each student will need something called a study plan, where they'll outline why they're studying in Canada, why this program, why not our programs in their home country, their career goals, how this study program will help them reach their career goals, and things like that. If you're being supported by a parent, you'll need a letter of support from the parent outlining that they will be supporting you, what they'll be supporting, how they'll be supporting you, how they make their income, their dependents, things like that. And on top of those things, if we're talking about like the process, you'll need things like a medical exam, you'll need biometrics, obviously those immigration forms. If you're staying with somebody in Canada, whether it's a homestay or a family friend or a cousin or whatever, you'll need a letter of invitation from them giving information on who they are, where they live, that they're allowing you to stay there. And then now also, because of COVID, you'll need a few extra things for the quarantine requirement that's currently in place. This may change over time as Canadian vaccinations increase. It may change over time as vaccinations in other countries increase, maybe different country requirements. It's very fluid. So those are some of the documents that you'll need. And if you were to retain a lawyer, go with our services, you'll also get a legal submission, just kind of outlining your case and making all the persuasive and compelling points as to why you should come to Canada, why you should be approved.
Perfect. And so I've got hosts of questions. I'm going to keep pouring them onto you.
Sure.
Is there a program for students to have part-time jobs while they're studying in Canada? We did cover this, right? So somebody's asked, what is that like? How is that experience for students? What kind of jobs can they expect?
Yeah, so I mean, it's pretty up to the student and their profile and who they are. As I mentioned, co-op programs are a very popular thing here, and a lot of them do include payment. That's obviously program specific. As I mentioned, you're allowed to work 20 hours off campus. You can work on campus as well. So I guess the type of part-time job would just be would be up to, what you're interested in and your capabilities and what you're able to do.
All right. So next question, which is that what are the kind of rules and regulations exist that students have to follow? Is it all too overwhelming or is it well balanced? Well,
so I'll just go through some of the important rules. One, working, as we were talking about, you can only work as much as you're legally allowed. Two, you can't commit any crimes, obviously. You have to make sure that you're, and this is, I don't know if it's more rural regulation, but the study permit and visa are two different things, and they're
Correct.
commonly confused or just thought of being the same thing. So the study permit is what allows you to study in Canada. So permit is something that allows you to do something. So study permit, work permit, and then the visa is what allows you to enter Canada. So you would have to make sure that if you were to leave and then come back, that the visa is valid as well as the permit being valid if you were to do what the permit allows you. So if you're in Canada and your permit expires, let's say it's a study permit, you have to stop studying.
Right.
So those are some of the rules and regulations, and just making sure that you abide by Canadian laws. But I think the more important thing is that you make sure you're on top of all the key dates. For example, if you want to extend your study permit, you apply it before it expires. If you want to apply
Correct.
for a work permit, you apply within the time frame of when you're allowed to apply for a work permit. Because there are people in a lot of situations where they want to get a work permit after they study, but their study permit expired, and now it's a whole different process and a much harder process. So I guess summary would be: only work when you're allowed to work, only study when you're allowed to study, don't break any Canadian laws, make sure you meet those key dates.
Absolutely. Now I have another question, which is saying that how about a peer applicant who's got everything ready apart from IELTS? Well, just give your IELTS and get your profile to be assessed by Josh, and I suppose he'll tell you whether you qualify for express entry or not.
Yeah, so the beauty of coming to study in Canada is it sets you up to be a strong express entry candidate, for the reasons being: one, you're usually younger, so you'll get lots of points for age. Two, your English ability, hopefully by the time you're done studying in Canada and done working in Canada, is high, so you get good points for that. You'll have Canadian study experience, obviously. As a Canadian student, you can get a postgraduate work permit, so you'll also have Canadian work experience. So all those things combined usually give you a pretty competitive score once you're ready to apply for express entry and permanent residency.
Perfect. So that's interesting. So it's got. I mean, if I look at it from this perspective, I think Canada really wants people who've had education there to contribute to the workforce, because you get a whiff of how the country is and what the work culture is, right? The next question I have, Josh, is to get into the best universities, what score should you get in your IELTS? Well, I would say get a 8.5, because that really helps.
Yeah, I mean, the higher the better. But something that's I get this question a lot during the visa process is, what score do I need in my IELTS to get a visa? But the IELTS, or any language, English or French language test requirement, is actually a university or college requirement. It's not a immigration requirement. So the point of taking the IELTS for a study permit would be to get accepted into the school, and the government kind of takes the advice of the school, saying, okay, this person's language ability is good enough. But that's obviously a different case when it comes to other types of visas. But in terms of study permit, the language requirement is for the school, not immigration.
Perfect. So, and just for laughs and gags, I had to score a 8.5 because of my age when I applied for the express entry, and I did score well, and that helped me in getting more points.
Attaboy.
No. Yeah. So what is the difference between general and academic training for IELTS? Whoa. All right.
So they're two different tests, and they're two different visas or institutions may require different types of tests. That's up to the institution and what you're applying for. They obviously test for different types of English language abilities. When it comes to visas specifically, it's usually general IELTS, but that could be different for an academic institution, obviously. So just make sure that you're meeting the academic institution's requirements for your language test.
All right. So I think that sets both apart. But generally for immigration, we apply for I think general IELTS if it's for your PR correctly, right? Another question, Josh, is what should a student expect whose visa is on hold because of the lockdown?
It's a tough question. I mean, it's just the processing times, and we're hoping that soon enough COVID will start getting better, not only here in Canada but across the globe, and we'll be able to open up more, and the processing will get faster. What I can say on that, on a positive note, is the the messaging from the government and from the immigration minister and department has constantly been immigration is an integral part to Canada, to our society, to our workforce, and all those kind of positive messages. And it's going to be one of the key factors that helps Canada, recover from all the the hardship, whether it's economic or whatever, of COVID. So it's hard to say what to do. I mean, if you're on, it depends on, I guess, what visa, but hopefully things start to open up. But I do believe that immigration will continue to be a key part of Canada and will be a big part of what helps Canada recover from the pandemic. And I do think there will be some sort of big uptick in immigration when things do clear up.
All right, another interesting question. I don't know. Let's test your knowledge in Canada on this. It says which is the field with the highest scope of work right now in Canada, especially for immigrants. Pretty interesting. What do you have to say to that?
So I see a lot of software engineers coming into Canada. A big reason being that a lot of companies are moving their headquarters to Canada. One of the big factors is that it's very easy to bring in talented foreign workers. And obviously, there's a lot of engineering talent outside Canada. So big companies prefer to have their headquarters located, across Canada, and bring in lots of talented engineers. So that's a big sector that I've seen over the years.
Perfect. Another question is, can you guide how law students can go and work abroad? I think maybe you should ask me that question, but I'll hand it over to Josh now.
So for law students to come work in Canada, so I can tell you the process for that. So
yes.
If you take a foreign legal degree, you'd have to come back to Canada and take something called the NCA exams. And what that does is it basically says, okay, your degree is equivalent to a Canadian degree. So let's say you studied law in Australia and then you come back to Canada. So the Canadian or the Law Society would want to see that your Australian or foreign degree, wherever it's from, is just as good as a Canadian degree, which hopefully is. And then once you pass those exams, then is when you can start the process that I spoke about earlier of the articling or practical training and writing of the bar and solicitor exams. You can write the bar and solicitor exam before, during, or after your articles. It doesn't really matter, but the articling is 10 months, and that is the process. And then if you're lucky enough to be called to the bar during COVID, you can have a very ceremonious email saying you've been admitted to the bar, as opposed to the traditional big graduation ceremony.
Of course, and Josh is helping me with my NC again. So that's that. Yes. I'm having backlogs. Can I apply for masters in Canada?
Wow. I guess that's up to the program in Canada. I mean, there are a lot of great programs across the country for different levels of grades and education, and there are a lot of great options. So the answer is yes.
Correct.
And you just have to find a program that suits you and something you'd be interested in, and something that you could be admitted into.
All right. So I think that concludes from my side as far as the questions goes, and from the student side. I think whatever we wanted to know, we have from your side. In the end, I would like to say that, I mean, we're going to be coming back with Josh for another live session at least once a month. So, please join us. Please ask all your questions here. I mean, I'm going to be doing it recurrently with Green and Spiegel and with Josh, because BorderPass is our our bread and butter, if I say the word. And we really want you guys to go through BorderPass because Josh is a wonderful human being. He's an amazing lawyer, and he will be as friendly. He's on the show in helping you out. Stop getting cheated by agents. Try to follow this route, and you will be rewarded by this. Also, I'll request you to review our podcasts on Google Podcasts and Apple Podcasts. If you've loved it, please do like it, subscribe the show on IVM and the website. And Josh, can you roll out your details? You can reach out to, of course, us on contact at AM Rana Ventures, and we can put you in touch with Josh. But Josh, could you roll out your details as well, where people can write into you?
Firstly, thanks, Amber, for having me on again. It's been super fun. And you can reach us at www.borderpass.ca. You can follow us on Instagram at borderpass.ca. Send us an email, contact@borderpass.ca. We just wrote a new blog, just kind of outlining a lot about who we are, what we offer, and why our platform is beneficial and great for students to use. And yeah, thank you everyone for tuning in. We hope to see you soon.
Absolutely. And thank you, Josh. It was great. We had a great session with you. I hope everybody here who was tuning in to us, maybe next time we'll have a greater audience from students who will just write in their questions. Thanks, Josh. It was fun having you, and we'll have you next month as well. So see you around there. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in with us on Know Your Kanoon.
Thanks, guys.